Get cool stuff for what you were going to do anyway. Drink beer. With Buy Beer, Get Gear from Labatt, you can just snap a photo of your receipt and upload it to the website to rack up points for exclusive merch. Get points for every purchase, whether you're grabbing a pint on draft, a case for a party, or a tall boy at the stadium. Any size, any product, anywhere you buy Labatt. Buy beer, get gear. Sign up now at rewards.labattusa.com.
Welcome into it, Newhouse Afternoon. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Riley Underwood with our star replacement, Adam Avon. What is this? You're subbing in all the time.
Number 4, Nick Whaley's across the pond, and Riley's traveling everywhere, so they need a pinch hitter, so they called me.
So he's the go-to guy, so it's great to have you joining us today, Adam. And we start with some more sad news for Syracuse fans. Yesterday in practice, Calvin Russell suffered a lower leg injury, speculated to be Achilles. That's no good, so they came out with a statement. He's out indefinitely. Bad beat for Calvin Russell, the two-sport athlete.
First, Jerry McNamara has his welcome back event, his celebratory press conference on Monday afternoon, and you can't have 2 days of good news here in Syracuse. So, of course, the second day, one of the highest rated recruits in Syracuse football program history, and just for Brown's third year, Calvin Russell joins the program, and instantly in his first week of spring camp, potentially goes down with what seems to be an Achilles. He posted a picture on Instagram we saw a scooter in the background, and typically, that means you're trying to take weight off the foot with also just one foot wrapped, which typically, again, means, we're focusing on the lower body there. So, it's sad, obviously, that this happened so early on in Russell's career, but when you bring in a 5-star guy like that, hopefully the recovery isn't too bad, not too grueling. He wants to get back on the field and show what he can do more than anybody. So there's still certainly excitement. And by the way, they didn't rule out necessarily a return to the field, but you have to hypothesize with an injury on this scale, this magnitude. We're seeing it in the NBA right now. Jason Tatum tore his Achilles at the end of last season. Ends up coming back just 8 months later. So it's not entirely impossible at this early to rule out a return. But you have to think that unless Syracuse is competitive next season and makes a deep run, it might be best for Calvin Russell to complete the full rehab process and not try and return back too early to avoid any other serious injuries.
And for a prospect, you talked about it, the highest. He is the highest ranked prospect that Syracuse football has gotten in 25 years. So, he comes into campus with super high expectations. Could choose about any school he wants. He picks Fran Brown in Syracuse. Plays on the basketball court. Now his main sport, football, he's slated to be first-string wide receiver. Now goes down. How big of a loss is that? And especially not just to the team, but to the morale also.
It's funny. I actually talked to Mike McAllister this morning, Syracuse on 247, CuseNation.com, and he follows recruiting very closely. And so I asked him today, I said, with Calvin Russell going down, how much of an issue is that? How is this wide receiver crew going to be affected? And he said, well, take last year, for example, right? Syracuse had really good wide receivers last year. Darryl Gill was big early on, and Jonte Cook played really well, some of the other guys, but what's more important is the health of your starting quarterback. Not that Calvin Russell's health isn't important, but when we talk about the impact the receivers can make on the field, when you saw Steve Angeli go down with his own Achilles injury last year, the receiver production went with it, right? So there was no more offensive production at all. It went from, what looked like was going to be one of the top high-flying passing offenses in football to something that was completely non-existent. Right now, you have a potential Steve Angeli return. You have Malachi Nelson on the roster, who everybody knows was one of those 5-star high school recruits. His career hasn't panned out the way that he is, but he's trying to potentially do it here at Syracuse. They have the guys to get the receivers the ball. That's going to be the most important thing. Is it the end of the world that Calvin Russell won't be on the field? It's not, because there hopefully are other guys that can step up. That is what Fran Brown has tried to do with this roster, is to have the depth that is good enough. They brought in his teammate to Darius Hughes from Northwestern. Calvin Russell, his teammate from high school down in Miami Northwestern, and they still have some guys. Amari Hatcher, the Syracuse posted video that a guy who's kind of non-existent towards the back half of last year as well. We weren't even sure if he was still around the program, and then now he's making big plays in practice. So it seems like Russell will obviously be missed, his talent in the field. Whenever you have a 5-star off the field that is is so talented and can make those plays, you can throw a ball up and just go up there and get it, he's going to be missed. But are we going to say the season's over at this point with him off the field? No, because you're hoping these guys can step up as long as you have the quarterback health to try and extend those plays and make some special things happen on the field. But obviously, Russell off the field and his talent is going to be missed for Syracuse fans who might have been expecting really exciting big things from him in year one.
And we talked about Malachi Nelson, and pretty much Syracuse fans really kind of overlooked that addition in the transfer portal.
Flew super under the radar because everyone's focused on Angeli coming back.
Right, Angeli's coming back, but you also get a guy from Kennesaw State, Amari Odom, who was the conference player of the year. You have two really good and serviceable backup quarterbacks. You talked about Malachi Nelson. Do you expect him to compete in any sort of way for this starting job?
No, I think with the way that, look, Fran Brown, if we know anything about Coach Fran, we know that he is loyal to a fault. Right.
We also saw that when he named Ricky Collins the starter last year.
Exactly.
And you know how that turned out.
Right.
He wasn't the starter.
I think that was a unique situation because I don't think they expected Angeli to go into the portal. Angeli, also a New Jersey guy, Fran Brown has the connections to that area. Fran Brown, when he finds his guys, they're his guys for the most part. And the prime example of that is Kyle McCord, or was Kyle McCord when he was here in that first year. That's my guy. Kyle still comes back. He still talked about him all through last year, saying, Kyle's around, he's helping Steve, he's helping Ricky, they're going through the motions together, right? When you have the program together like that, and Fran has his guys, that's where the trust is, and so I think he's built a relationship with Steve over the past 2 seasons now. He is excited for Steve to come back, and Fran has talked about it, right? Like offensive coordinator Jeff Nixon as well has said, like, Steve is working through the motions, should be back full speed by summer, which should gear him up well for the fall. I think Malachi Nelson, bringing him in, and Odom as well from Kennesaw State, who, by the way, did a flip with Ricky Collins, who went over there.
Pretty much a trade.
Pretty much a trade. But Fran made it a point, and he mentioned it throughout last season. Like, our quarterback play is not good right now. We don't have the depth for it, and they tried a lot of different things. None of it worked. They threw everything at the wall. Nothing stuck, and that's okay. But this offseason, the plan was, okay, what do we have to do to ensure that God forbid, Steve does go down again? We need somebody who can come in and keep the offense at a level where they can just put some points on the board. Last year, not that there weren't a couple games where they scored at all, but they really didn't. Like they could not go out there and make a play. And it's not because Ricky Collins doesn't have some talent back there. He was a highly touted recruit out of high school. We know the talent is in him in some way, somehow, just maybe not at the Power 4 level. So what do? You go and get a couple guys who, if Steve goes down, you have as backups legitimate starters who can come into a role and keep the offense at a level where they can stay competitive. And that's what's most important. Do I expect Malachi Nelson to compete for the starting job? No. But I do think it's important that he competes with Odom for that backup spot, because if something does happen, okay, we got a 5-star on our bench that we can plug and play right away to make sure that Syracuse can win a game in the ACC against an opponent that might be beatable.
And I don't think he's a shoo-in for that number 2 slot, because Odom's a real good quarterback. Yeah. I think it's very interesting that they were able to bring both of those guys in, very high-level quarterbacks at maybe the mid-major level, to bring those guys into Syracuse to compete for the 2 spot. And they know they're competing for the 2 spot. I think that just speaks to the recruiting also. Big question marks in the defensive secondary entering this offseason with Devin Grant and Deuce Chestnut, the leaders of that defense, leaving. A lot of buzz around Cornell Perry emerging as a leader who's stayed with the Orange his entire career.
Played well down the stretch last year.
Looks like he might get his shot this year.
Yeah, I think the defense is up in question. I think Fran, I think he maybe took a little bit of a step back last year in terms of being the DB coach that he loves to be, right? Elijah Robinson had a big control over that defense, and for Fran it was really important. Elijah Robinson no longer with the program. They're bringing Vince Karras from Toledo, who is a really highly touted guy that Fran went and got halfway through last year when Elijah Robinson might have been out the door. He said, I want you as my guy next year. And Karras looks like he really has a pulse on everything, which kind of allows Fran to go. Syracuse football posted a video the other day with him kind of working with the DBs. And And so that gives Fran more of an opportunity to really lock in on the secondary. He might turn Perry into one of those guys who I mean, we obviously know his connection with Demetrius Samuel Jr. and the type of play that he brings to the table. The Kerr twins as well, who are back there and played really well down the stretch on special teams, and also some DB as well. So you have a couple really young guys who are starting to make their way, and for Fran Brown, who that's where he comes from.
Right,
that's his culture.
Defensive backs coach
right?
in Georgia. That's where he came from.
And not only as a high-level recruiter, we understand the type of connections that he can have with players across, offense, defense, special teams, but DB playing back there, and this is a position that he played, is a position that he coached for a really long time before he got a head coaching role. He was never fully a coordinator because that was his focus, right? When you're at Georgia, especially a position group that has always been so strong, it's like DBU over there. Fran Brown headed up that group for a while, and so now he might have an opportunity to really just be a leader, but then also in these practices go to Demetrius Samuel, go to Cornell Perry, and say, what can we do to get you guys to step up and make plays for us this year when the offense might not be playing at a high level. The reason why Syracuse wasn't competitive last year wasn't because the defense wasn't necessarily any good. If you remember that Miami game, I was there. Syracuse didn't allow Miami to score until I think halfway through the second quarter. So the first quarter ends 0-0, and then they get another couple of stops, so they force a couple of turnovers. Right, that was a game where you're competing against a team who ended up playing in the national championship.
But then
game.
Your offense only scores 10 points.
Right, the defense didn't look that bad, in the offense, when you can't produce, the defense is out there playing 45 out of 60 minutes of that game. You're going to get tired. You're going to get sloppy, and you're going to give up plays, right? Syracuse got a pick in that game that got called back for a penalty, and now the defense is on another long 80-yard drive, and then they get stalled, right? These are the kinds of things that happen when the offense can't produce and the defense gets tired. It's not that the defense isn't any good. They weren't that bad last year when you look at the whole picture and you look at the context of things. But when the other teams are scoring that many points late in the game, it's going to look way worse than it is. I expect a bounce back year for the defense if the offense can hold up its end of the bargain.
But then after the Miami game, the game right after that was on the road against Notre Dame, where it's 70-0 with under 10 seconds left.
We don't have to talk about that.
But that's the point of the
long
defense.
Removed from
right.
that game,
Okay,
but of course.
But can they bounce back? We talked about 10 wins in Fran Brown's first year. Everyone's saying, wow, this is such a good get for Syracuse.
Right.
And next year, 3-9, you lose out the rest of the season. And you're like, can this guy coach? I mean, that's the question I think that people are asking. So do we expect a bounce back year from this? Because you can't put it all on the quarterback play. I don't think you can.
I do, but look, can you put it all on the quarterback play? No. But I think you can make a really strong argument that for last year, 95% of the blame you can, right? Like, in some of these games, it was just so bad that, like, they couldn't throw the ball at all. I mean, Luke Carney, who was the third string behind Ricky Collins, who ended up taking a couple starts and they ended up redshirting, or keeping the red shirt, they didn't even let him throw the ball.
But you only have 4 games with Angel. 8 games, you can't figure anything out?
You go out there and beat you go out there, you beat a Clemson team. You're up on the road in Death Valley, something that Syracuse hasn't done in a long time, if not ever. I can't fully remember. But they were incredibly successful to kick off the year. I remember I was at the Tennessee game last season as well, season opener in Atlanta, and I remember watching Steve Angeli and some of these throws, and I'm sitting with everybody in the press box, and we're all looking at each other, and we're just turning heads and going, Syracuse might lose this game, which they did, by 14, by 2 scores, but they did end up putting up 28 points in that game. Like, Steve Angeli legitimately, outside of a couple really, tough plays or throws where he threw a pick because the pocket was collapsing on their own end zone, right? Like, Tennessee is an SEC team, and we're undervalued going into that game. But, like, I remember everybody turning heads and being like, this guy can throw the ball. Like he made some really impressive throws on, 4th and 10 from his own 40-yard line to give Syracuse an opportunity to get back in that game. And by the time it was in the 4th quarter, everyone had a hope that going forward, despite that loss, which was expected, I think, that Angeli could be a guy that could lead the offense. The defense didn't look that bad in the games following, especially against Clemson in that game number 4. And the second he goes down, there's a significant drop-off, right? So I think you can put a lot of blame on the quarterback play. They didn't have the depth to back it up and stay competitive. I think that's what a lot of this offseason was built around, and they also got depth in certain areas that I think are going to be really important in some of the key positions they lost, but obviously specifically the quarterback situation. I think that should be the outlook for football next year. In Fran Brown's first year, they won 10 games, 9 with the bowl game, right? 9 and then the bowl game. I think 8 wins now, you got to go back to that being the expectation. You need 8 wins. There are going to be a few tough teams that you play, the Miamis, the Notre Dames of the world, but you got to win those games.
So is 8 a realistic number for 2026?
I don't think the schedule's necessarily that difficult. You got it pulled up here.
Yeah.
They start off the game against New Hampshire and Cal. Those are at home. I think.
Should be wins.
I think those could be wins. Again, this is banking on the quarterback play being what it is. I think you can bank on those being wins at UConn. I think that can absolutely be a win. At Virginia, I think that can absolutely be a win. They've lost a lot of players, by the way. Louisville's going to be their first difficult game, I think, or the game where people look at and say, okay, that could be a loss on the schedule. Following that, I don't think you can say that Bill Belichick's North Carolina is going to be any good.
But you wouldn't say that if you were North Carolina saying, I don't think Fran Brown Syracuse is going to be good after seeing them last year.
Exactly. Right. I think you could say things for both teams. SMU is going to be hard. Clemson always difficult, but that one's here in the Dome, right? If Syracuse has momentum, if they're going, I don't hate the opportunity there. NC State, Boston College, 2 teams that are finding their way right now, and Notre Dame to end the year off. I mean, that's just such a buzzkill for if you have any hope of competing next season. But for the majority of that season, you look at that schedule, and if Syracuse can play any sort of similarly to how they did 2 years ago, I don't think 8 wins is unrealistic at all.
So I would think a realistic line would be around 5.5, and you're taking the over all the way.
I'm taking the over.
Okay.
I take the over. If Angeli's the starting quarterback, give me the over.
All right. Well, spring game, just 10 days away. That's April 11th.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah, it should be fun to see all those guys.
Sneak preview. Would be nice to have Calvin Russell out on the field, though.
Well,
that game.
Not going to happen.
I know.
Well, after the break, we're going to talk about, well, you guessed it, Jerry McNamara. What can we expect from the basketball team? High hopes here in Syracuse. We'll catch you after the break.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Caitlin, what do you think of that block? Yeah. Of course.
Yep, that's our go-to.
Do.
Give any tours today?
Yeah, but I'm taking the 3 o'clock off.
Nice.
NEWHOUSE is popping right now.
Yeah.
Oh my God, they played it. And Nancy, we're in the office, played a April Fool's prank on us. She printed out, like, we have a list of all the people, so we check them in the mornings, like for the tours. And the 11 o'clock tours had like 40 people on it. And she was like, "It's spring break, guys. Like, this is all week. Like, we're gonna get all these people." And we're looking like, oh my God, we do not have the staff to like do all these tours. And then she's like, no, I'm joking. It stops like right here. There's only like 5 families. Really. Okay, good.
Well, it seems like the past like week or two, there's just been like
there's been
way more than usual.
Yeah, there's been a lot. But keeps things exciting.
People ever ask you strange questions on the tours?
Like what?
I don't know.
I don't even know. Not really. A lot of, some people just ask questions that like, I will literally already say things, or like things are just so obvious. Like, oh, where do we eat? Stupid. But like, I don't know. Most part, like, people ask pretty good questions.
It's good.
A kid asked a question today. He was an admitted student, and he was asking me, like, I was telling him about all the opportunity. He wanted to know, like, Citrus and radio stations and whatever. So I was telling him about that, and he was like, and I told him, well, you know, I've had opportunities to go travel and do these things, and he was like, so how do I get to do that? Like, how do I get picked to travel for those opportunities and stuff and go cover games? And I was like, well, you know, there's a waiting period. You gotta wait till you're a senior. And he goes, oh yeah, no, I like so I can't come in right away, and so I do this stuff. I'm like, no, dude, it takes time. You know, you gotta work your way to that. He's an awkward kid. It's funny. Hey, the food.com guy.
The food.com guy? I've never gotten food from there.
Shut up.
Nope.
What are you talking about?
Never done it.
Ever?
Never.
How is that possible?
Just haven't done it.
Weird.
And why is it called that? Why is it called food.com? It's not a website.
Because we, like, go to school in a journalism school. It's like a play on tech.
Welcome back into Newhouse Afternoon. Riley Underwood and Adam Avon here with you this Wednesday afternoon, and talking about men's basketball, men's hoops. That's all that's been happening here on the Hill. A lot of buzz around Jerry McNamara, of course, his introductory press conference on Monday, and it was honestly more of a celebratory party than a press conference. I mean, everyone in there, fans, students, everyone was packed into the Myron Victory Court to celebrate this, and it seemed like a pretty electric environment there.
Oh my God, it was exceptional. I haven't felt the energy in that 4,000 people. By the way, they only set up 500 chairs. That ended up being 4,000 people packed in that small place, and you could feel the energy. I mean, the second you walked in, everyone starts chanting Jerry, Jerry. Everyone's holding up signs. Everyone has shirts with his face on it. They're calling it the McNamara. You like that?
I don't like that.
You don't like that?
No, I don't. I think that could have been better.
Too much?
I think it's a little too much. Name. I know it, but
it was
I didn't like that.
Regardless, the fans are clearly bought in. They're excited. Yeah. Fans were doing interviews all throughout the day, and I heard this one woman say how she feels like we were bored, and now there's energy back, and now people are finally bought in again. And look, when Syracuse basketball's winning, they're a better place. When they're losing, it's worse. It's hard to get the fans invested, especially when you feel like you're at such a stalemate and nothing's happening, right? So now hopefully Jerry gets some energy back into the program, but he certainly feels like he can. I mean, he talked about, you guys know why I'm here. I'm here to win, right? And he really emphasized that we are going to put winning basketball out in Syracuse again, and I think he's excited, and clearly everyone in the Syracuse community is. I haven't heard a single bad thing about this guy, about his mentality, about the expectations, and just about him as a person. Everyone loves Jerry McNamara here in Syracuse.
It seemed like people weren't really sure who to hire. Should we hire Brian Hodgson? He ended up not being on the table. And then turned to Jerry McNamara. It didn't seem like people were really set on him, but once he got hired, it seemed like, this is a good choice. It seemed like everyone got excited for it immediately.
Yeah, well, I think Jerry was always going to be in contention. He was always going to be one of the guys. Mike Waters from Syracuse.com, Post-Standard, talked about how there were some other guys involved. You mentioned Brian Hodgson, who was definitely a name, and Syracuse was talking to some other people too in this head coaching search. But this, what Mike said, I talked to him earlier today also, in that this was something interesting just to watch, was that this is the first real head coaching search that Syracuse has really had since Jim Boeheim took the role. Adrian Autry, the day after Jim Boeheim announced he was retiring, was announced as head coach, right? Like, there was no real head coaching search. There was certainly discussions of who should be the coach to follow Jim Boeheim, but they passed up on Jerry McNamara. And Jerry McNamara, in his press conference, GMAC talked about how he didn't even really want to leave Syracuse when Autry got the job. He was happy for Coach Red and stayed on as the associate head coach, but knew that when an opportunity had presented itself and he had the chance to go prove himself that he could be a head coach one day, he had to take it. So he goes to Siena. He turns them from a 4-win team to a 20-win team. They make March Madness for the first time in 5 seasons, and makes them into a winning program again. And it just so happens that his first Power 4 job, the job that he probably always wanted, Carmelo Anthony called it his North Star to always come back and be the head coach of Syracuse, is the job that opened up. And it's the job that he gets after proving himself, the job he leaves Syracuse originally for. It's a very full circle moment. I think that's why the energy's there. Was he necessarily the first choice or first option when you think of all the Power 4 coaches up for the job? People were saying, go get Tony Bennett, go get Jay Wright out of retirement, go get all these guys.
Which wasn't going to happen.
Those things weren't going to happen, but if you're a fan in Syracuse with NIL these days, you have to hypothesize. You go get some of the greats. But I think the hype right now is, and especially after seeing Jerry lead Siena against Duke in the NCAA tournament, that the hype is there, that he proved he could do it. And it's very interesting because if Gavin Doty does not get injured in that game late in the second half, you remember the Duke defender,
right,
Alex Sarr goes down, he pulls him down, he hurts his ankle. There's a legitimate shot that Gavin Doty leads Siena and GMAC to an NCAA tournament win, and it might have taken another week for him to become the head coach of Syracuse University. So again, a really full circle moment. The energy is here, and I think regardless of what the expectations were originally, people are excited for this McNamara, and I'm gonna use
You're gonna use it. All right,
because you don't like it.
I think one thing I noticed in that press conference was how he's talked about he wants to lead his teams with discipline, and his Siena team was successful because it was disciplined. Obviously, don't have the most talented guys because you just can't recruit the most talented guys there, but they were successful because he said if you're not disciplined, you're not going to play. And I think that's something that Syracuse almost lacked these past few years, where you have the talent on the roster, on the paper, but you just don't play as a team. You don't play with camaraderie. And I think that's something that McNamara, at least he says he's going to change, and Syracuse fans are hoping he does as well. And I think that's also goes to how he might bring in his own guys. Talked about Gavin Doty. Just now, Francis Fulafak, the big forward for Siena, entered the transfer portal. All 4 of his commits for this year from Siena have already decommitted, and I think we can expect a lot of this kind of Ben McCollum effect, where he takes his guys from place to place to place. I think there's going to be a lot of Siena representation on the roster in Syracuse.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily 100% effective when you take guys from lower mid majors and bring them to Power 4. Syracuse tried that a couple years ago when they didn't necessarily have the NIL money. They went and brought in guys like Jaquan Carlos and Jair Davis, Eddie Lampkin, who bounced around in the Big 12 a little bit, ended up coming to Syracuse, and that team didn't really work out. They got guys who didn't necessarily play at the highest level against the highest competition, and making that jump is difficult. So what did Syracuse do this past season? They went and got guys like Nate George and Nate Kings, who I actually thought played pretty well this year. I don't want to group them into this conversation, but they went and got some other guys who maybe did not perform at the Tyler Betsy, for example, who I actually thought is a pretty good player, but again, it didn't pan out this year. So they went and got the right guys, but it didn't work. Okay, so now what do? Red is out the door, you bring on GMAC, and clearly something worked. You talk about playing as a team and playing together. Jerry McNamara, he said they only had 7 healthy players. They only played 5 guys for 39 minutes. The 6th player on Siena's bench didn't come in the game until the final minute of the game, right? Like, he trusted 5 guys to go up there and try and compete against the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament, and they led the game for 35 minutes, right? Like, that is the type of coach and the will that Jerry has to lead a roster. And now you expect to have that expectation to do it here at Syracuse. Gavin Doty, who's from Fulton, New York, just 30 minutes away from Syracuse. He grew up a Syracuse fan, basically played played at home when he was at Siena as well. You have to expect that, and he's going to be inquired by a lot of other schools as well. He put himself on the map in that game. So you have to expect there to be some conversations, but he also said multiple times that he believes he wants to play for Jerry McNamara in his college career. Now he's entering his junior season, and that's a real shot for him to make his return home to Syracuse. You also have Francis Fulafag, who is a 6'7" power forward, averaged 11 and 6 rebounds this year, and is a good player. And he was only a freshman, so now he's entering his sophomore season, and he has an opportunity to make that jump as well. I think those are the two guys you have to look at from Siena. Ryan Mesh is another guy. Syracuse does not have a single 2026 recruit lined up for next year on their roster, which means they're going to dive heavy into the transfer portal. That's why all the talk this past week with Jerry and Brian Blair, the new athletic director, has been about NIL. However, they do have one offer out to Ryan Mesh, who before Jerry McNamara took the Syracuse job, was committed to Siena and would have been the Saints' highest recruit ever.
Yeah,
he's a four-star point guard from Chittenango, also around 30 minutes away from Syracuse. Grew up around the area, and he actually is now playing at a prep school in Massachusetts, but playing pretty well, winning state championships there. And his head coach there, I saw a quote this morning that said he is actually has a little bit of GMAC in him, old GMAC. Like, he shoots the three well. He's a playmaker. He's a shorter guy, only 6 feet tall, but clearly a highly sought after recruit. Has offers on the table from other schools too. But now Syracuse sends an offer out to him. You have to imagine that some of these guys who, like, for a four-star to commit to Siena, you have to imagine he saw something in Jerry McNamara as a head coach. It'd be shocking to not take that opportunity and come to a powerful program in Syracuse that has such a big brand as it does to play for GMAC here. I think those are three guys to keep an eye on. There might be some other guys under the radar as well, but we really don't know anything until the transfer portal opens up the day after the championship game next week.
We already know Aaron Womack will enter the transfer portal.
Yeah, it's already a player's department.
Opens up, right? And I think with Jerry McNamara already having the Syracuse connection, I think we can almost expect some of these guys to return to Syracuse from this past season that otherwise probably wouldn't have. They went outside, got someone else, like Kyan Anthony. I think Kyan Anthony, that's a guy that will likely return to Syracuse.
It's hard to imagine a Jerry McNamara-led team without Carmelo Anthony's son on it.
Right.
You know?
I mean, Carmelo Anthony has been outspoken about how his support for Jerry McNamara. But do you think this team next year will look similar to this team last year? No. I know they weren't successful, but is it going to be a complete revamp? And are they going to go more into, we talked about his recruiting abilities, into the portal, or more to the new freshman class, giving those high school guys a chance?
Yeah, I think the high school guys will come eventually. I think Jerry was a guy who was recruited out of high school. I think he appreciates that local recruiting. Like, you got to start here in Syracuse. You got to get like he talked about in his press conference. We got to start here. We got to build the base here in Syracuse, in the area. I think he'll bring in coaches that maybe have specific focuses in areas around the country and do some more recruiting in spaces like that. But I think right now you have to start out with the transfer portal because that's what the world is, and it doesn't seem to me like there are going to be many players on the roster from this season on next year's team. You have to imagine J.J. Starling, a guy who, as we know, doesn't have any eligibility, will probably move on to bigger and better things. You have to imagine Nate Kings, who said he would love to return to Syracuse next year. That was when Red Autry was still the head coach. Now he's not, so we do not know if Nate Kings is going to stay, whether he's going to transfer. He did apply for a waiver because he's also out of eligibility, so we'll see on that. And what's going to happen with Nate George? What's going to happen with the point guard situation? He does have another year, but it was a down year for Syracuse. And a pretty rough one for Nate George, who the year before at Georgia Tech led the ACC in assists and then completely flip-flopped this year at Syracuse. So when we talk about the returners from last year's team, I think there's really two guys that you can look at. Number one, Kyan Anthony, who I think, as far as I know right now, is a sure thing to be on the roster for next year. That's just the feeling I get. It's hard to imagine him not being on the roster with GMAC, and imagine Melo sitting courtside, just how full circle that is. I think it's a really cool moment. And then also Sadiq White, who was a 5-star recruit, one of the highest recruited players that Syracuse had ever gone out and got, outside of Donnie Freeman and Carmelo Anthony. He's up there in that upper echelon. And he had a very underwhelming first season in Syracuse as well. But the intensity that he plays with, especially on the defensive end, how athletic he is.
The raw talent.
He seems like a guy that Jerry McNamara would love to have on the roster. But even just for Syracuse as a whole, they spent a lot of time trying to get him and Kyan really as kind of a pair together in their recruiting. They were the two high school recruits that they brought in last season. I think Jerry's going to try and do a good job of making sure they're together and keeping them on the roster. Really, outside of that, a guy I haven't even mentioned, Donnie Freeman. I don't know if Donnie's on the team next year. I think he's exercised a lot. He hasn't stayed healthy. That's the main part, so it's not a knock on his talent at all. But when he has been on there are times where he shies away, and I think I don't know if he'd benefit from being here in Syracuse in another rebuild where all the pressure's on him again. Sure. I think he needs to go somewhere. We've seen it before. We saw Malik Brown. What happened? Malik Brown goes to Duke and becomes one of the best defensive players in the country and really put his name on the map. I think Donnie Freeman is supremely talented and would be more slightly sought after than Malik Brown was. But that's a guy who ended up going to Duke from Syracuse. That's pretty good jump. Yeah. And that's just within the conference alone. Donnie Freeman could get recruited by some other really high schools in the transfer portal that would offer him a lot more money. And if he can stay healthy, I think sky's the limit for Donnie. I just don't know if next year with Sadiq potentially trying to take a roster spot, if you bring in a wing like Gavin Doty, I don't know if Donnie really fits in GMAC's system.
Me and Nick talked about it last week, the expectations for GMAC after these 2 down years for Syracuse. What's the expectations realistically for Brian Blair and the athletic department for GMAC in year 1? What can they expect realistically, and what can he deliver?
Right. Look, I think the first thing you have to look at is improvement. No Syracuse fan is going to be happy when they're not in March Madness. Plain and simple. But after 2 back-to-back losing seasons for the first time since the 70s, you have to want them to see improvement. Like a winning season would be nice, right? Like
for sure, it would be nice. Yes.
Like if Syracuse, Red's first season, they won 20 games, and they were a bubble team for the NCAA tournament. They were just missing a couple solid wins for them to be in March Madness. But there was a legit shot if they'd flip some of those losses to wins against some of those bigger programs like Duke. But they did beat UNC that year, who was number 7 in the country. Those were a good win. Regardless, they did have opportunities that first season. GMAC was on the roster. He also played here at Syracuse when they were a winning program, and he coached here when they were a winning program. He understands what it takes. I think a winning program, a winning season to start in year 1, I think a lot of Syracuse fans will say, oh, clearly this is better, and the overreactions will start instantly. And you're always going to have the haters out there who are going to say, well, he still didn't make March Madness. Is he really the right guy? Winning doesn't happen overnight. Success doesn't happen that quickly all the time. We've seen it happen in college basketball before. You brought up Brad McCullum earlier, who's now at Iowa, who I think is going to go and take the UNC job because he just keeps going year by year by year and winning, right? Some people just have it in their blood. Jerry McNamara has winning in his blood. I just don't know if it'll happen in that first season. I think the first step, go from losing to winning. I think fans should be happy. And then after that, I think then you're starting to get the expectations of year 2 and 3. That's where you start thinking about the tournament. But obviously, it'd be nice if in year 1, Syracuse flips the script and goes to March Madness.
Final 4 of the tournament is coming up this weekend on Saturday.
It is.
4 teams, and Syracuse would really like to get back there one of these upcoming years.
By the way, Jerry said in his press conference yesterday, he mentioned how Syracuse had reached a Final 4 in every decade.
Right.
And this one, and he said, we're coming up close on this one, right? We're coming up close on the 2020s. And so just the fact that he thought of that, or that was mentioned to him and he regurgitated it, I love. Because he's saying we need to win and we need to win now, right? They want to be back in a good spot to stay competitive, regardless that wherever that is in college basketball, right? It doesn't mean you have to be the 1 seed in the ACC right away, but if you can somehow string some wins together, stay competitive in your conference tournament and make March Madness, I love the expectation that he's already setting. Maybe they're too high for him right off the bat. I don't want to, over-exceed right away because, or then the expectation's not there for us. Then we're like, okay, now he already lost us, right? But if he can come out and win right away, I love that he's excited about the opportunity to just compete right away. I think that's really cool.
Riley Underwood and Adam Avon here with you. A lot of buzz around campus with Jerry McNamara being announced as new Syracuse head basketball coach. Stick with us after this short break. We'll have more basketball coverage here on Newhouse Afternoon. Cool.
Nice.
You want to talk a little Final 4 after?
Sure.
Your Gators, not in
it. Not at all.
It's a shame.
You know Boston College's new head coach, Luke Murray, is Bill Murray's son?
Yeah. Wasn't he the Connecticut assistant?
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Yeah, it is pretty random.
Like, he's like one of the best assistant coaches in the country, apparently.
Yeah.
Everyone loves him. All they do is hype him up. For Mike McAllister, the Q Sports talk show has permanently disbanded. That's funny. Should we say? Should we pull a prank?
What's the prank gonna
Should
be?
we say Jim Boeheim's returning to the bench? We just got some breaking news. We don't know who's going to be in the coaching staff for Syracuse, Riley, but we did just get word that Jim Boeheim will be returning to the bench. That's going to be big news.
He's the associate head coach.
Okay, so is the head coach. He's letting G-Mac take the reins, but he's excited about the opportunity to return to the
Oh
sideline.
man, that'd be all over Facebook. People would start believing it.
Let's do it.
It started
Let's
per
do it.
per Avon. Per Avon.
Per Olivia Stomsky. Just got word.
We just got word.
That's funny.
Jeez, man,
What?
our viewers at home are.
Sorry, I was fixing my thing. You got any questions on the
No
Twitch?
questions on the Twitch chat.
If you got any questions,
Yeah, let's drop them in there.
let us know. Callers, talking some
We
ball.
should start a call-in segment.
Sure, let's do it.
We should do that.
Welcome back into Newhouse Afternoon. Nick Weller here with you, and Riley Underwood is breaking down everything GMAC and Syracuse basketball.
That is what he would
Oh
say.
yeah, no, I do a good the McNamara. Yeah, no, I do a good Whaley impression.
Bro, that slogan is so stupid. There's
What,
no
you
way you actually like that.
What's wrong? It's a play on his name. It's a pun.
I know what it
What's wrong
is.
with
I know
that?
it's just welcome to the Magnum era. I wanted to go for a shirt, and then I saw the shirt, so I was like, well, I didn't need one
you
anyway.
saw the shirt and you left? I went.
No, I didn't go. I was like,
I went late. I didn't even get a shirt.
well, I mean, they weren't that cool anyway.
I got a
that's what I'm
big. I
saying.
got a big face. A face sign of him.
Oh yeah.
I held it up in front of my face.
Oh, what are you gonna do with that?
It's in my room
Okay.
on my wall.
Nice.
It's on the floor. I gotta find a place for it. It's huge, and I can't hang it up because Jerry's eyes follow you.
Do
wherever
they?
you go? Yeah, that's
It's like the what is it? The Mona Lisa.
yes, correct.
Yes.
Good memory.
Thank you. I try my best. Are you getting ready for your hot take in the segment after this?
What's my hot take?
I don't know.
About what?
I don't know. You got to think of one. So it's the Wednesday show. We do our hot takes.
Oh God. I don't know what my hot take
Well,
is.
Can be about anything.
All right, I gotta find it.
Yeah, think of one.
Grab a picture. It's going to BG.
Nice. Electric. Hello and welcome into SU Soccer Stadium. Nicholas Whaley with my partner Sam Reeves.
April Fools, everybody. We're talking Syracuse soccer on the show.
All right, welcome back to it. Newhouse Afternoon. Riley Underwood and Adam Avon here with you. We're talking some men's hoops. Syracuse not in the Final Four, but there is some teams. Yeah, it's breaking. That's breaking, by the way.
Yeah.
Syracuse not in the Final
I
Four.
didn't know that.
Right now, it's UConn and Illinois playing on Saturday, and then following that is Arizona, Michigan. Your thoughts on that? No ACC teams in the Final Four. Was that a surprise? Is there anything that surprises you about these Final Four teams?
No, I don't think there was an ACC team that was going to be in it besides Duke. And
Right.
I think after that Syracuse game against Duke earlier this season, I think all the fans in the area here were aware that Duke might be the only team, especially with how they dominated that game. So outside of them, I think, was it a shock that they lost that game, especially after being up? Yes, but I mean, UConn. I mean, what a shot from Braylon Mullins, too. My God, .3. Bill Raftery says, major onions from Indiana. He's a shooter. And what an electric Elite Eight game that was. But I think this is a really good Final Four matchup. I mean, I think a lot of people over the course of the season kind of had in their mind who the top 3 best teams were in the country. Michigan and Arizona being 2 of the 3, with Duke as the 3rd. Yeah. And Duke ended up 0.3 seconds away from a potential miss of making the Final Four as well. And so really, if you picked those 3 teams plus a 4th to make March Madness, I think everyone would have said, okay, and UConn's in that second tier. I think the team that only shocks people is where Illinois is at right now, and the fact that they made it. Look, obviously, I thought Florida would have gone on a little bit of a run. I didn't expect them to go out in the. That
is Adam's team, by the way.
That's my homegrown team. Right. I have feelings for them, but obviously. I didn't expect Florida to lose that early, but I don't think anybody also expected Iowa to go to the Elite Eight as well. Yeah. And so that was quite a shock. But for the Gators, who end up losing early, if they go out as a 1 seed, I think the clear cut runner in that region, in the South region, was going to be Houston. And then Houston loses to Illinois, and Illinois wins that game because Keaton Wagler goes and drops 25 points as a freshman in the NCAA tournament. I mean, my God, what a athletic freak that kid is. I mean, he's a great player. And I think the reason Illinois shocked me so much too, Riley, is because Andros Stojakovic, who transferred in from Cal, son of Peja Stojakovic, NBA legend there, has been out for Illinois for a lot of the season. So he was hurt, and I think Illinois just kind of flew under the radar. They didn't lose a lot of games that they were expected to win. They played really consistent basketball, and when you get late into March, I think that play just carries over. Despite that Houston game, though, I think they did have a really easy path. Like, they ended up facing an Iowa team that just clearly ran out of the special gas that you have in March Madness, and now they find themselves in the Final Four with a chance to beat UConn. I don't see that happening, though. I think the Huskies make it back to the Natty. I think Syracuse formed Big East foe, trying to get another championship for Dan Hurley 3 out of the past 4 years. I don't know if they win the thing, but they're definitely going to stay competitive. To me, the real championship game is that Michigan-Arizona game in the Final Four.
How about that coaching matchup? I mean, is that as electric as you can get? Dan Hurley and Brad Underwood on that one side. I mean, Dan Hurley.
Related? Are you related?
No, I'm not related. But both from Kansas.
Oh, okay.
Right. Yes.
Close. Same area. Cousins.
Yes, similar. But I mean, Dan Hurley's a madman. I mean, do you see that clip of him rubbing his head on the official? I mean, what? How do you not get teed up for that? I don't get it.
Apparently, the ref after the game, was asked about it, and he said, "I don't even know what you're talking about." Apparently, him and Hurley have a long connection. They're friends, so whatever. That ref is not assigned to the Final Four, I heard as well.
Is not.
But that Arizona-Michigan game, I think
that's the real championship.
I don't know. To me, I just think that's going to be so exciting. I think Michigan especially. Jax Lenneberg right now just looks like an absolute stud. Yeah. I mean, in that Sweet 16 game against Bama, I think he dropped, it was 23, 12, and 7. I mean, just absolutely late in that game, just put them so far out of reach against the Bama team that was leading at halftime. And so that was their first real test. But even when they're down, even when things stay competitive, I mean, that St. Louis game was close. And then in the second half, Michigan just turns it on and ends up winning by 20 points. They do the same thing against Bama, and then they blow out Tennessee, a team that Syracuse beat. Right? So if you're a Syracuse fan, did you expect Tennessee to make it to the Elite Eight? No. But then when they got there, they looked worse than how they played against Syracuse earlier this year. That is how good Michigan is and how they've been dominating their opponents. But as we know, they did lose to Duke earlier this season. We know that Michigan, they lost to Purdue in the Big Ten championship game, which might have shocked some people. They are vulnerable. They have shown they are vulnerable. But that was twice. Yeah. I can't think of many other times so far this season where Michigan has not played to the standard that they've played to all year. To me, I had Arizona in my championship game to begin with, but that was under the expectation that Iowa State was still going to be in contention with Michigan. They end up losing early. Now Michigan right now just looks like the clear runners, I think, from that side of the bracket. To me, I'm looking at a Michigan-UConn matchup which if you're a fan of just good basketball, how would you not love any of these potential matchups that come from these two Final Four games? I mean, I'm thrilled. I'm super excited. March Madness, it might be April, but March Madness is not over.
I think the one thing that's surprised me, at least, is the amount of success the Big Ten has had in this tournament.
Yeah, you got 2 teams in the Final Four.
Right, 2 teams in the Final Four, and so many more in the Elite Eight. I mean, for me, all season long, I'd said, well, I think Big 12, or maybe the SEC is probably the best conference. Yeah. But for performing in March, I mean,
I think you can make the strong. I think you can make the strong argument that the Big 12. I mean, the SEC got the most teams in because they all played the toughest schedules and RPI and strength of schedule, things like that. Florida, Arkansas, Alabama, led the pack in the SEC all season, and for good reason. They're 3 great teams. But the SEC as a whole was really strong. But the Big 12, for how top heavy it was, you can make the strong argument that was the best conference in college basketball this year. But the fact that Illinois ran through their region like they did, and Michigan is the best second half team in college hoops right now. They're in the Final Four for a reason, and it's because of how well they played. I mean, again, Illinois,
with Purdue and Iowa both in the Elite Eight as well.
For sure. Super impressive stuff from the Big Ten, but I think. Look, I think if you had a UConn, Arizona, Michigan in your Final Four, which I had both Arizona and UConn in my Final Four, actually. Michigan, I thought, would have lost to Iowa State if they were to play, just because, I thought the Big 12 was the best conference, and I wanted to see in Arizona, selfishly, another Arizona-Iowa State matchup from that Big 12 semifinal game where Jaden Bradley hits the buzzer beater. I wanted to see Iowa State go out there and get their revenge. However, those 3 teams, if you had them in your Final Four, I don't think anyone would have looked at them and been like, oh, no, that's not correct, right? Like, those 3 teams were supposed to be in this position at the end of a basketball season. Illinois is the only one that I think people did not expect to be there, unless you're my friend Jared from my baking class, who is an Illinois fan and did pick them to be in the Final Four. So
is he a good cook?
He's fine. It's a lot of teamwork in that class,
right.
But you need teamwork in March Madness as well, and then Illinois certainly has that.
All right. Well, Illinois is favored. I like that. Illinois is favored by 1.5 over Connecticut. You say that the Huskies are going to get it done.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a close game, but I'm going to agree with you, Adam. I don't think you can bet against UConn in this one.
Illinois might be favored, but the Huskies, if we're talking lines, they're plus 110 right now. To me, that's a toss-up from Vegas.
Yeah.
And they might be one Braylon Mullen shot away again from making the national championship game.
True.
So anything could happen. It could fully be another toss-up. I'm excited to watch.
And I think Michigan's just been so dominant this whole postseason. Yeah. I think Michigan's gonna get that.
Arizona's been a little bit more vulnerable to me in March Madness than Michigan has. Not that they haven't played well, but Arizona was down almost 10 points to Purdue at the top of the second half in that game. End up winning by 15, but that's what the best teams do. They always end up on top. Unfortunately, from Arizona and Michigan, only one gets to advance. And to me right now, I'm flip-flopping every day between the Wildcats and the Wolverines, but I think Michigan is his team is going to make it to the Natty.
It all.
Honestly, yeah.
All right.
Honestly, yeah. We're calling it. Are we both calling it?
We're calling it.
All right, let's do it.
All right, let's do it.
Michigan and the Natty.
Michigan to the Natty.
I see it.
All right, time for your hot take. Have you gotten time to think about this, Adam? It's something I know you're a frequent substitute on this show with me and Nick Whaley.
But can I tell you something? Nick Whaley's never asked me to give a hot take.
Really?
No.
Well, he's not a very good host.
I think when you're not on, he goes off book. He just does his own thing.
It's going on. Well, we're sticking with tradition today.
Okay.
So, I'm going to welcome you into this tradition. Maybe he's keeping it a secret from you.
And this could be about anything. It doesn't have to be about sports, or do we?
Well, we usually keep it around sports, but for you, we please the guests. So whatever you would like, let's do it, Adam. What do you think? What's your hot take today?
Well, look, I thought about this the other day, and I've been trying to rack my brain with this statement.
Okay.
And I want your thoughts on it. I don't know if it's necessarily a hot take, but I don't understand why things are the way that they are, and I question things a lot of times. It's just the person that I am. Why is the phrase good morning 2 words, but good night 1? I don't get it.
Question.
Doesn't make sense to me.
It's a good question.
Right? Like,
I don't know if it's a hot take.
The good night, why isn't that 2 words? It should be 2 words. Like, look, if I was saying, this has been a good night, right?
That'd be 2 words. But if I'm saying good night.
But I'm talking about the phrase in which it's used on a daily basis. Good morning. Good night.
Right. Good afternoon.
2 words. Good afternoon. That's
Good
2.
evening.
So we have 2 phrases. We have 3 now.
Yes, 3.
We can probably come up with more. We have 3 phrases that are 2 words, but good night is 1.
That's
and
1.
to me, that doesn't make any sense.
That's odd.
Yeah, see,
I have to say.
You put me on the spot with a hot take, so that's the first thing that came to my mind,
Okay.
and I could definitely, I'll come up with something else. But before we head off here, but that's definitely
That's been on your mind.
It's been on my mind the past couple days, if I'm being completely honest with you, because the English language is unique to me.
Well, that is odd.
Yeah.
I've never really thought about
There you
that.
go.
That's just a
Good
look
morning versus
inside
good night.
the mind of inquisitive Adam.
Yeah.
Maybe we should change that. You should
Merriam-Webster, hit me up.
Hit him up. Hit him up. All right. Do you have your other one, or do we?
No, you go first, then I'll try and.
Okay, I'm doing a hot take now.
Oh, only.
It's usually
so
right.
you only ever ask Nick about the hot take.
No, we switch. But I
Every
can
week.
try to think. Right, we
Yeah,
switch
you
every
think-
week.
you think
All
of
right, I'll
one,
think
too.
of one. All right. Well, let's both think.
Yeah, we'll both think
Are
about
we
it.
gonna do Syracuse sports, or what are we gonna do?
Oh yeah, we can. You want to keep it Syracuse?
We can keep it Syracuse sports. All right.
I got a good one right now.
You got a good one right now. All right, lay
Yeah.
it on me.
Syracuse men's lacrosse
Mhm.
has been rolling right now. They are playing some really, really good lax. They are about to go down to Chapel Hill for a matchup, a place where the last time they were, they only won 9-8, and it was a very close game. And Joey Splina in that game was basically non-existent. He didn't do much. But now it's a little bit of a different situation. He's grown. He's matured as a player. He's one of the best players in the country. He's probably the favorite for the Tewaaraton still now, where Syracuse sits as one of the best teams in the country. I think that Joey Splina, who just sits 6 points away from breaking Mikey Powell's points record for Syracuse, he is the opportunity in this game against North Carolina. It'll be a tall task. But I believe that this weekend, Joey Splina will become the all-time points leader for Syracuse on the road against a top 5 team in North Carolina. I think he gets it done. I think he gets the 308. That would be 7 points. He breaks Mikey Powell's all-time points record, and he solidifies himself as one of the all-time greats. That means he would need at least 7 points to break the record on the road against a top 5 team. We've shown that he had 8 assists in a game against Air Force earlier this year. 8 assists. Like that's nothing. For
So does that
this
mean
guy.
Syracuse wins if this happens?
I think Syracuse wins, and Joey Splina breaks the points record. That is my scorching hot take for this weekend in the lacrosse world. Make sure you tune into that game. It's going to be a good one.
All right. Well, I'm going to go back to football. We talked about it at the top of the show. Talked about the schedule, how many wins are they going to get. I'm going to go out on a limb.
Okay.
And I was a little down on them earlier in the show, and I'm going to go reverse that. I say Syracuse starts off the season 5-0, undefeated, back in the national spotlight, and I think things take a downward turn from there. I think this is kind of a Dino Babers type season.
Okay, so you set the line at 5.5 earlier. Yep. You think Syracuse eclipses? You don't think they eclipse 5 early? You think they get to 5, then
we're struggling to get that 6 one. We're struggling to get to bowl
eligibility. So what's the rest? So you think they go 5 against all these lesser
You got
teams?
New Hampshire at home,
Pitt.
California at home, Pittsburgh on the road. That's going to be tough. Connecticut on the road. You should win that. Virginia on the road. I think you can win that. And then we go to Louisville at home. I think we kind of hit a rough patch here at Chapel Hill. I think maybe they sneak out a win against Boston College, but I think sneaking into a bowl game.
You think you think Steve Angeli is a quarterback for the season?
Yes, no doubt.
Interesting.
No
Interesting.
doubt.
So with the healthy Steve Angeli, Syracuse only wins so many games. Hypothetical for you: if Angeli stayed healthy, doesn't go down in that Clemson game in Week 4, what do you think their record is? They were 3-1.
I think probably
really?
around 6-6.
No, come on.
That defense wasn't going to hold up. I know we were talking about it.
But outside of, think of all the other opponents that Syracuse played last year. Outside of Miami and Notre Dame, they were in every other game just based on their defense alone. I don't know. I don't know if I feel that. I'm taking the over. I said 8 before. Give me the 8.
All right.
Give me the 8.
Well, that's all the time we have today on Newhouse Afternoon. Riley Underwood and Adam Avon alongside with you. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week.